We are live on air.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome. It is hard not to look at yourself when you're talking there. I'm Charlene Paxton, and I'm going to introduce your presenter, Jane Lofton. She's going to be talking to us today about making Twitter our #1 tool for building our personal learning network. So Marie Slim was also going to be presenting, but she wasn't able to be at the conference, but she did co-create this presentation with Jane. And Marie is a teacher librarian who is currently serving as a Spanish teacher at Troy High School in Fullerton Joint Union High School District. She earned her MLIS and TL credential through San Jose State University in 2003. And she also holds a bachelor's degree in Spanish from CSU Fullerton, and she loves computers, books, and people. And Jane Lofton has been a teacher librarian at Miracosta High School, did I get it right? Yay! In Manhattan Beach, California since August 2010. Prior to that, she was a middle school teacher librarian and classroom teacher at Lindero Canyon Middle School in Agora Hills. Following earlier careers as a public librarian, Jane has also worked as a technical writer. We're glad that you're a librarian now. Jane earned her bachelor's from Stanford University and her master's and MLS at the University of Toronto. She's a former president of the California School Library Association and a Google certified teacher. She loves the kids, the books, technology, and Web 2.0 tools, and recently taught an online course in Twitter. I hope some of you may have participated in that. So everyone, Jane Lofton. And by the way, happy birthday, Jane.
Thank you. Yes, this is this is my birthday. Fortunately, it's not the birthday that popped up on my screen yesterday. I got a notification saying tomorrow is Jane Lofton's 211th birthday. I think I need to do something to fix my settings and whatever is doing that notification. Don't I look young for age? Anyway, so I'm delighted to be here. I'm really sorry that Marie is not able to be here, but she and I actually put this together last year and have updated it some. And I am recording it, so I'm going to get this off. What I'm going to do right now is bear with me. For the sake of anyone who may watch this recording later, I'm going to screen share. Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Sometimes it does that. Okay, let's hope that it decides to work. And you know, the nice thing is I'm doing it as a Google Hangout, and you know what, if it doesn't work, no one outside this room will know because I just won't make it public, right? So, I tend to talk fast because I have a lot to cover, but feel free to ask questions, and then I'll let you know whether I'm going to cover it later or not. So, so we're going to hide this. Oh dear. No, we're not going to hide that. And let's get started. And you already heard what the session is about, making Twitter your #1 tool for building your personal learning network. Actually, Marie and I did a session once on variety of social media, and I like a lot of types of social media, but really when we talked about it last year, we thought, you know, what is the #1? What's the most important one? And we absolutely were in agreement that it's Twitter. So that's why we decided to focus on Twitter, because there's lots of other tools you can use, Facebook, Google+, and so on, but Twitter is just the best of the best as far as I'm concerned and Marie is concerned. And you already heard a little bit about us. I just wanted to show you that because this is Marie's profile, and as you can see, it shows as of like when I captured this last night, you know, how many tweets she's done. She's done over 9,000. She's way ahead of me on that, and number of followers. And what I also want you to know is that this is her Twitter handle. And I'll talk more about handles in a few minutes. And then there's mine. And that's my Twitter handle, Jane_librarian. You're going to get this whole, you don't feel like you need to take notes because I'm giving you this whole Prezi slideshow at the end, okay? Okay, and what I want to do now is show you a short movie, actually, that Marie put together for us when we did this last year. There's so many great people on Twitter. We took the liberty of kind of featuring ourselves. So if you were wondering why we love Twitter, you now know, and we can all go home, right? But I'm going to talk a little longer. And if you'll bear with me, I'm just going to check back on the Hangout, and I have no idea whether the screen sharing is working right. And so I'm going to just turn it off for a second and back on to just give it another chance. Oh, well. Whatever will be, right? Yeah. All 211 of my years, right? Yeah. So, yeah. So why Twitter? Well, I think that really, the film Marie made really sums it up. But here's a sort of another take on it. And actually, this came from Alice Keeler, who is a wonderful person to follow for Twitter, for Google, for all sorts of things. She's in Fresno, I believe, and she's a teacher, and she also teaches at teacher preparation programs. And here's some of the things that we pulled out from one of her postings about why she thinks Twitter is your best personal learning network tool. And if you haven't seen PLN before, that's Personal Learning Network. And Twitter's great for so many different things, but that's really what I'm focusing on in this session. New ideas. Every time I go to Twitter, I get multiple new ideas. You know, obviously I can't sit on Twitter all day, but even I pop in when I can, and every time I do, I see something, a link to something, a comment someone made that teaches me something new that I can think about implementing, you know, in my practice. It's a great way for sharing books, buddies. You make so many wonderful buddies on Twitter. And one of the things that's really exciting is that you meet people on Twitter and then you go to a conference and you go, oh my gosh, I know you. And you have a special bond that's just different than any other kind of bond when you meet people online. And then if you have the luck to actually get to meet them in person too and connect in that way. And even if you don't get, I have some people who I really consider friends that I've met through Twitter, who I have not yet met live, you know. You can share books, you can share tech tools. It's a great way to share lesson plans. You know, and how do you do that? You do it with links, you know. You can follow authors. Lots of authors are on Twitter. One of my favorites is Neil Gaiman. Does everyone post something worthwhile? No, I think Twitter does have a bad rap, and it's kind of like people think Twitter is, oh, that's people post what they had for breakfast or lunch. And frankly, authors are certainly not the only ones guilty of this. I've followed a few, in the early days of being on Twitter, I followed a few authors. I was so excited to find them on Twitter, and they were just posting about what they had for breakfast, and I got bored and I stopped following them. But there are some great authors on there. It's great for research. You can hook your kids up with experts in the field. In almost any field you can imagine that they want to learn about. Not every, you know, expert is going to be on Twitter, but some expert in that field is going to be on Twitter, and they can get in touch with them that way. And you can, not everyone will respond if you you contact them on Twitter. What you do is you @sign them, and then they get a notification that, you know, of your tweet. Not everyone will respond, but a lot of them will. I've gotten authors to, like, I recently got an author to attend. I participated in this somewhat virtual book club with some other high school library book clubs from around the country. And we were going to be discussing a book by Kristen Terrell, All My Yesterdays. And I contacted her and said, would you join us? Because it was through a Google Hangout. And she said, sure. She was with us for the whole hour, answered all our questions. It was wonderful. Charlene and I just engaged Charlene did engage Lainey Taylor in a conversation. And I have a link to that on my on the blog site that I set up for this Twitter class. I'll tell you about more later if you want to see that. It saves time. Why does it save time? Because you can often find answers to your questions quickly. If you have something you need feedback on, or you don't know, you know, post it on Twitter. You're having trouble with the software tool. Well, you put it out there that you're having trouble with VoiceThread or something. They see it and they want the good PR of fixing it for you, and they will respond. You know? And so you can find out resources that are worth your time. And this is, Marie found this. LinkedIn is for people you know. Facebook is for people you used to know. Most of my Facebook friends are people from high school, some of whom I remember, some of whom Not sure. Twitter is for the people you want to know. And not all of them will connect back with you, but a lot of them will. And even if they don't, you can follow them and learn from them whether they follow you or not. I keep hitting return and I'm forgetting I'm on Prezi. I need to do the arrow. So how do you get your feet wet if you don't have an account? I tell you, if you go to twitter.com, it's going to ask you to log in or open an account. You don't have to do that right away to start searching Twitter. You can use this URL, and as I said, I'm giving you this slideshow at the end. Search.twitter.com. That will allow you to do Twitter searches without having an account. And I'm going to urge you, if you're not on Twitter, actually don't be too fast to set up an account, because there's some things you want to think about first, okay? But get your feet wet by exploring Twitter through that link, okay? Setting up an account. If you go to learntotweet.edublogs.org, it's learn2tweet.edublogs.org. I just ran a 4-week online class getting people up and running on Twitter, which I could not have done without the help of Marie and Charlene. And all the stuff, and I have a whole walkthrough of how to set up your account. So actually, I would urge you to go to that. But right now, I'm not going to give you a tutorial on how. I'm going to give you some things to think about when you're setting up your account. One thing that's a little confusing is you have an account name and you have a username, or if you go to Twitter, I think they changed their mind about what it's called. Right now, I believe they're calling it account name and username, and username is more commonly referred to as handle. It's the thing that has the @ sign at the front. You want to think about what you want those to be. You don't want them to be too long. If I had it to do over again, I would make my account name and my username the same, and they aren't. Account names don't have to be unique. There could be more than one Jane Lofton. There can only be one, like I'm Jane_librarian. No one else can have that handle unless I release it. And I've thought about changing it, but then I think it'll be hard for people to find me. I'd like to make it I've thought many times of making it Jane Lofton, which is my account name. I can't, because somebody grabbed that handle. They've never tweeted, but they won't let it go. So think before you set up your account about those things. You want to have a good profile. You want to have a photo, or I call it an avatar, a photo. Think about whether you want it to be an avatar, whether you want it to be your face, whether you want it to be a beautiful flower because you love, lilies or something. Mine is an avatar. I'll show you in a minute. And I love my avatar. I really, really love my avatar. She always looks good. She doesn't have to worry about whether she looks tired or, her hair gets messed up. In some ways, though, I think it's probably, I set that up a long time ago. I think at this point I might be inclined just to have a photo of me, and then also people would be more easily recognize me when we've hooked up on Twitter and then I see them live at conferences. It's hard to let go of my avatar, though, because I love her. But think about how much, what you want, and if you're a little more private, you might want to have an avatar or photo instead of your picture. What I am going to recommend, absolutely, you can have a private account or a public account. I personally do not see the value of being on Twitter if you have a private account. If you have a private account, people who want to follow you need to be approved by you. And that's fine. You can approve who you want, but how are people going to find you?
Most people won't follow you if you have a private account.
Yeah, I only do it for people who I know personally, who I know are getting started on Twitter and who probably haven't figured this out. You want to have a public account. I mean, this is my philosophy, and obviously Charlene agrees with me. I never, ever, ever post anything on Twitter I would not be comfortable with the whole world seeing. And if I'm not sure whether I'm comfortable with them knowing what my opinion is on this or that, I'm not going to post it. So why would I make my account private? I want to share with the world. I want them to follow me. I like getting those notifications that people are following me, because the bigger my network, the bigger people that I can learn from. And, the more people you connect with, the more you learn, right? Think about your bio. Some people just have a blank bio. You don't want to have a blank bio. You want, when people see a link to you and go to your bio, you want them to be able to see who you are. And frankly, if someone follows me, if I haven't followed you, don't take, actually, I'll get to it later, but I have a California library list, and I follow everyone who asks to be on that. But if some random person follows me, sometimes I don't have time. So that's why I don't follow people. But usually I try to take the time to check their profile. If they have no bio, I don't know who they are, and I'm probably not going to follow them. And you want to have good keywords in there. You want to have teacher librarian. You want to have the things that, describe you. You also get to have a background image, and that kind of gives people an idea of, who you are. You saw in my profile, I have a picture of Catalina, the ocean in Catalina. I thought about maybe making it more library oriented, but the background image isn't as important, I would say, though, as the bio and the photo, and thinking about your username and handle. And if you're wondering where do these fit in, you're going to see in just a minute. So here's I've got a couple of screens on the anatomy of a tweet. Okay, so here's a typical tweet. So in other words, here's a tweet that I did. So see, here's my photo, they're calling it now, or obviously my avatar. So when someone goes on Twitter and sees my tweet, they're going to see that. They're also going to see my my name and my handle. And I think, as I said, I went with Jane Librarian in the early days because I was still, this was, I think, 2009, 7? I was thinking I wanted some level of privacy. I didn't even understand at the time that you could still see this. So as I said, if I had it to do over again, I would grab Jane Lofton as my handle before somebody else did. You see this @ in here, @ Nikki D. Robertson. Basically, I'm mentioning her. And her handle is Nikki D. Robertson. So instead of typing Nikki Robertson, the advantage of the handle is really two things, and maybe some others I've forgotten. One is that if you read this tweet and you click on her handle, you'll be able to go to her profile and see all of her tweets. Also, she's going to get a notification that I did this tweet. And so even if she does, she follows me. But if she didn't follow me, that's how she's probably going to find out about me, because I @ her, and she'll get a notification. And that's how I got in touch, like with the author, because Kristen Terrell, I @ her. She still, I don't think she follows me. Some, authors don't follow all the people they're in touch with. I don't know. But that's how she found out that. That's how she knew about my tweet. Okay. The next,
that the handle to their handle, not their full name?
Yeah,
just
forget this. You
right.
always use the handle. Always the handle. Okay. And then, so what is this? These are hashtags, and I'm going to talk more about those in a few minutes. Hashtags are super, super powerful, but I'm going to hold off on that for a couple minutes. And then, see, I put in a link, and notice I did it with a bit.ly because I've only got 140 characters. Those 140 characters are precious. And one of the tools that I like to use is bit.ly to shorten them. I don't have it in there, but I'm an English major. I'm fanatical about good grammar and everything. In Twitter, I substitute the number 2 for TO and so on. 140 characters is not many, and you look for every way you can to shorten. And then down here, there's other things you can do, like you can favorite it, that will save it in your favorites list. And it's also actually, there are two reasons for favoriting really, is so I can save it in my favorites list and find it later more easily. And also, the person whose tweet you favorited will get a notification. It's kind of like a little nod to them, you know, that you did a good tweet. You know, it's a compliment. Okay, let's go on to the next one. A lot of the same things, but you'll notice here in this one that I have, that this was one of Marie's tweets. And see, her username is Marie Slim, and her handle is SRA Slims for Senora Slim. She put Nikki's handle right at the beginning, and that's okay, but she knew when she did that, that tweet is gonna show up only in it's gonna show up in Nikki's timeline, it's gonna show up in Marie's timeline. It's gonna show up in mine because I follow both of them. But let's say you follow me, but you don't follow, or I'm sorry, but you follow Marie, but you don't follow Nikki, it will not show up in your timeline. Someone may find it through the hashtag if they're searching for the hashtag. So it's not a private conversation, but it's kind of semi-private because the @ appeared as the first character. And sometimes you want to do that. Someone will do a tweet and one of the options here is that you can click reply and it will automatically put that person's handle at the beginning. But know when you do that, that it's a less public tweet. What if you want to make it more public? Put the handle somewhere else in the tweet. Find a way to phrase it so the handle shows up later. Or if you can't, put a period before the @. And then it treats it as if the handle were anywhere else in the tweet, and it shows up in everybody's timeline, even if they don't follow that person you're @signing. Make sense? Okay, and some other lingo. The hashtag, and again, I'm going to talk about that a little bit more later in just a couple of minutes. Retweet is when someone posts something that you think is really good, and you want to get it out to the people who follow you. And also sometimes, frankly, you do that as a compliment. You know, sometimes I think like Charlene's posted something. Who's going to see it if I tweet it? Who's not going to already see it? But it's kind of a compliment to retweet someone. And it does spread it further. And it makes it more liable to trend, right?
Right, and if someone's following me and not following you, then it's going to a wider audience too. That's what I look at.
Yeah. Sometimes you want to change, you want to retweet, but you need to modify it, and then you change it to empty. And that lets them know that it's a modified tweet. Or you just also, the thing is when you put a retweet at the beginning, you're adding characters, and then sometimes you're in trouble. You run out of characters. So sometimes you'll just pare down what they said and you'll just say via, and you'll put their handle. DM is a direct message. You can also use Twitter for direct messages if you follow each other. So it's like, I don't have your cell phone number, but I have your Twitter handle and we follow each other. We can send private messages. And as I said, I'm not going into a tutorial of how today. I apologize if that's what you were looking for, but please, if you go to that blog, it's all tutorial information. I'll answer all of your questions later, in any time afterwards if you want. And so for some more like Twitter lingo, here's a good link that you'll get in when you see the slideshow later. Okay, I promised to talk about the power of the hashtag. And I forget whether I borrowed this from someone or I came up with it. I really think of hashtags as like keywords on steroids. You can search Twitter for any keywords you want, but the hashtag makes more people find it. It makes it possible for you to search effectively for topics, events, activities. and to get tweets noticed. And in the interest of time, I wasn't going to do much online, but you know what? I think this probably needs a little more I think you'll get it better if you see it. Okay, so here's I'm in Twitter, and this is my timeline. So this is all the people that I follow. Oh, Rosemary just posted something. That was nice, thank you. But I'm at this conference, and right now I just want to focus on this conference. And I happen to know that the hashtag for this conference is CSLA 100. So I'm just going to search for that. And it would help if I typed it right. And now what I'm getting right now is the top tweets and you get to be a top tweet if people mention you, if they retweet and so on. And actually most of the time, Marie just responded. I like to see all of them, so I click on all. So in other words, by putting, I may not follow you, but if you do a tweet with CSLA 100 and I'm searching for CSLA 100, I'm going to see your tweet. What I tell students a lot is to search for something they're interested in, like, oh, I don't know, give me a topic. Baseball. I'm just going to search for that keyword, but then I'm going to start looking through to see if I can't find a hashtag that better describes it. Baseball's a little, Okay, so now I see, oh, actually I was interested in the Bulldogs, so now I'm going to get all the tweets with that hashtag. One thing you do need to know about hashtags is they are not regulated. There is no one sitting there in the Twitter office handing out hashtags or approving hashtags. And for example, for our main CSLA one, we do the number 4 in CSLA because we could use CSLA, nobody's stopping us, but other people are using it. So, and sometimes people will just create hashtags on the fly, and sometimes for this conference, we'll say, please, everybody use CSLA 100. So it just makes it so much easier to find things. Like while I'm at the conference, I can't handle all the other tweets going through. I just search for CSLA 100 when I'm in a session, and then I know I'm getting all the tweets dealing with the conference. And frankly, if you don't put that hashtag in, I'm going to miss your tweet. So what you want to do is kind of get familiar with good hashtags and use them, is I guess what I'm trying to say. And here are some suggestions, the one for this conference. The biggie for teacher librarians for the whole school library world is TL Chat. That's the one that if you don't follow anything else, follow that. A lot of people do EdTech, and here's a link to a whole number of, educational hashtags to consider using. How are we doing on time? Okay, I think we're all right. So what should you tweet? People say, okay, so I'm on Twitter, so what do I talk about? Well, here are some ideas. Links to great sites, blog postings you find. And I want to say people have different specialties on Twitter. I would say mine is posting links. When I'm out on the web, I'm following blogs and other social media, and I see that Joyce Valenza did a great blog post, or I see this website that's a really good tool for this. I will post the link to that. And I think that's probably why I get the most followers, is people, if they follow, I post links to things that they're going to care about, that are going to be helpful to them too, because they were helpful to me. You can link to your own blog postings or your website. Anytime I post, do something on a blog posting, I tweet it out so that more basically, is it self-promotion? It's not self-promotion if you're sharing, right? That's what everyone says. You can share photos, videos, and sometimes really helpful ones, sometimes fun ones. I've posted quite a lot of photos at this conference just for fun. Responses to other tweets, someone tweets, and that's one of the best ways to get followers is to, if you see someone who posts something that interests you, reply to them. Actually, I'm going to just show you how to do that because that might not be clear. So let's say I wanted to reply to this person who is, what I do is I click here, and now by default, her handle shows up first, and then I can write her, write to her, and then she'll be notified that I did that. Okay? It's not private. That's what you call semi-private. She'll get notified of it. If someone follows her and follows me, it will be in their timeline. Otherwise, other people won't see it. Okay? You can do quotes, notes from conferences. I don't take notes at conferences anymore. I sit on my computer if we have Wi-Fi or on my phone. I follow the hashtag for the conference, and I tweet as I listen, and I watch because I'm not that quick. I watch for the other tweets of people who are on that hashtag, and then between my tweets and their tweets, those become my notes for the conference or for that session. You can use it for announcements. This great thing is going on in my library. Come to the library club, come to see the banned books display, whatever. Just any sort of information or comments on topics. You can do retweets of good stuff and some fun stuff. When I first started on Twitter, I was very, very serious. I thought it should be all about business. And then actually I read a blog posting by Gwyneth Jones who really urged having some personality in your Twitter account. I don't have a bigger than life personality like she does, but I do put some personal things in my tweets so that people know that I'm a person and not just a source of information, or a sharer of information. And I will sometimes, if it's a gorgeous day on Palos Verdes Peninsula where I live, which it often is, I'll sometimes post a picture of that. And I'll post pictures with friends at conferences and so on. I try not to overdo that. I'd say a good balance is, I haven't added it up, really done scientifically, but my aim is about 10 to 20% fun personal stuff, and the rest really contributing to the larger personal learning network. Yeah.
So I saw the RT for retweet, but if you see the retweet button, do you have to put the RT?
No, actually, that's the old style way of doing it. Let me show you that. If there is now an automatic retweet, which you can get by doing that. But what I don't like, you used to have to copy their text. So I'm going to do that. And then paste it. And then you go in here and you put RT at the beginning and get rid of that, and so you're thinking, why would I do that when all I have to do is hit retweet? Well, because I might want to add content to it. Like this way, I can type a comment at the beginning, or maybe, obviously, this is just a random tweet. Maybe it was about the conference, but they didn't put in the hashtag. I can then add the hashtag, or I can add another hashtag. So that's why when I can, I use the old way, the manual way of doing it. The problem with the manual way is that it adds characters, and sometimes they've used all 140, and so without changing their tweet, I can't do it that way. And actually, that's a reminder. Try and keep your tweets actually a little less than 140 characters if you can, so that if people want to retweet you or add content, they still can. Yeah.
So when you hit retweet, it automatically just retweets that. You can't want to edit that.
Exactly. and it shows that who the tweeter was, and it shows that you retweeted it, but yeah, no editing. So that's why I do the manual way a lot. And it didn't, you know, I got used to doing that before they offered the automatic way too. Okay, Twitticket basically is do unto others as you would have them do unto you. You want to be always, always, always polite. Never tweet anything that might be misunderstood. Always give credit. Never just grab something without telling what the source was. If I'm doing a if I'm tweeting during someone's session, I always try and put the name of the speaker. And if I run out of room and I've done a whole bunch of tweets, then maybe people will see that it's from that session, probably, but I still try and put their name. If I get something from a website, if it's a link, it will go to the website, and that's the credit. But if I find out something out from someone else, I want to, you know, I want to give credit to who gave me that information. Don't spam. In other words, I'm probably guilty of tweeting too much during conference sessions. Try it, and conferences are kind of an exception, but try and sort of spread out your tweets. Don't have, you know, 20 of them all at once and then, you know, not. And by don't overshare is most people really don't want to know what you had for breakfast, and they certainly don't want to know if you're, you know, got ill because of what you had and that kind of thing, you know. And here's a link to a guide about that. Okay, chats. There are live chats. They are a little intimidating. It's something you want to sort of think about after you've been on Twitter for a little bit. So in other words, like every second Monday of the month, they have a live TL chat. It starts at 5 o'clock Pacific time. Actually, I'm going to be moderating one on Monday, so if you want to follow along, do. I will tell you, if you haven't been on Twitter for a while, it's a little intimidating because the tweets go really, really fast. But it's a great way of interacting with people, and you can just go on just as a lurker if you want to. And this is a little video from the Cool Cat teacher talking about how to participate in a live chat. That's something probably for down the line. Here's a few ideas. I'm really running out of time, aren't I? On how to use Twitter with students. I was really focusing today on Personal Learning Network, but there's great ways with students. If they set up accounts, that's a great way for them to build a positive digital footprint. And I talked to them about don't, you know, tweet anything you wouldn't want to share with the whole world. It's a chance to talk about digital citizenship. Lessons in close reading. It's a good way to communicate with them. You can send out messages reminding them that, you know, homework to do and so on if you're in the classroom, or that kind of thing. It can teach them to be very concise with their language. It can be a research tool. I talked already about that, where they can have access, they can find and contact experts. And actually, I just did a project this fall on mythology with a 9th grade English teacher. We had each student set up an account as a god, and then they had to have conversations with each other. And how did we accomplish that? We set up a hashtag. And we did run into some glitches, and there's a blog post in the works in my head about getting around those glitches. So if you're thinking about it, get in touch with me. But the kids found it really engaging, and we've got some fun tweets. And in that Learn to Tweet blog website I set up for the class, I have links to those chats, or where the kids were Greek gods. So you can see as an example. Finding people to follow. How do you find people to follow? They always have suggestions over on the left. I frankly don't get a whole lot out of that. I don't pay much attention to that. What I do is I look for who my colleagues are following. Also colleagues lists, like I follow Joyce Valenzen. If you're not following her, if you don't follow anyone else, follow her, is what I'm trying to say. She has a list of librarians, so I can go to that list and see who she thinks is worthwhile to follow, and I can get ideas from that. News media is a nice thing to follow. I don't follow a lot of news media. I will tell you, whenever I'm on Twitter, though, if there's any breaking news, it's going to filter through with the people who I follow. But you can, all the major media and even the minor media have Twitter accounts you can follow to get news. Follow people who post in chats and with hashtags. So I'll start to follow people at the conference who I didn't know because I found them by following the conference hashtag or being in a Twitter chat. Follow authors, librarians. This is less than my 5-minute warning, right? Oh no. Okay, please follow me and Marie and Charlene. Charlene is awesome. She won a contest for tweeting at Q last March. These, I know you don't have time to take them down now. When you come back to this, these are some people who I really recommend. I also have this California School Librarians list, and if you're not on it, get in touch with me and I'll add you to it. To decide whether to follow people, check their profile and their avatar. Check what they tweet, who they follow, who follows them, to help you decide whether to follow them. There's a whole bunch of other tools that you can use, and I definitely don't have time to go over these. I'm just going to really quickly tell you, I use Bitly a lot. Twitter will shorten your links for you, but Bitly will do a better job. And also, when you paste the Bitly in, it will put http:// You can get rid of that. You can just start it with the BIT, so you save more characters that way. I think that's the way to go with shortening. Storify, I love Storify because you can turn your tweets into a story. And actually, I did that the first day of the conference. I need to update that. And whereas tweets are in the most recent at the top, you can flip with Storify. You can flip so that it goes from oldest to newest. And you can also put in comments. And I'm not going to go over these other tools, but there's some good ones. I love Digo for bookmarks. And there are a lot of tools you can use so that you get double duty. Like if you can have Instagram also post to Twitter. Although I'll tell you, if you do that, and you can do that with this option, it comes through in Twitter as a link. It doesn't actually show the picture, which I don't like as much. But it's an option. And that's an example of posting a Vine. Okay, resources. These are all the links that I talked about. We put last year in a blend space, and so you can check that. And here's the Pinterest we set up with links to all the resources. And to Charlene has set up the CSLA Pinterest for Twitter since we did this last year. And this, as I said, is the blog site that I used to make a website for that 4-week class. And really, there were a couple, we did have a live chat, but anything else in it, you could just go through in your own time and follow, do all of it or as much as you want. And you'll get a lot more than I got in this 50 minutes. And I think, oh, here's credit for the background, because of course you always want to give credit where credit is due. And here is the link to this file, okay? I always try and give people a challenge. If you just go to a session and you think, I'll think about it later, obviously we get so much, you can't do everything, but make a commitment to yourself that if you don't have a Twitter account, spend some time thinking about, look at that learntotweet.edublogs.org and the advice on setting up an account. Make a commitment to set up an account in the next week, before next Sunday. And if you're already on Twitter, to do a few tweets this week and next week, and that'll kind of get you going, right? Please get in touch with me if I can answer any questions. You got a
I have a question about blending my different interests, and people can follow these same random stuff about school librarians when they know we have something else.
You can have more than one Twitter account, and some people do that. I have a library account, which is not really very active, and then I have a personal account, which isn't really personal. It's really my librarian account, but if I were really into swimming or something, I might have a different Twitter account for that. And you can only have one Twitter account per email. However, if you use Gmail, did you know, like my Gmail is janelofton@gmail.com. I could put Jane Lofton plus swimming or +1@gmail.com, and Twitter would think it was a different email and allow me to set up a new account, but everything would still come to my email. So that's something you could do, and Charlene has a suggestion, I think.
Well, I think hashtags too are how you can separate those different, you can choose to follow hashtags, you know, because depending on how many people you're following, you do have to decide how to filter it out. You know, Jane, how many people are you following? Probably a lot. I'm following almost 700 people. And so there's, you know, constant stream of information. So you have to kind of choose. And so
Yeah, 921.
Yeah, you kind of go into your roles, and so people can kind of follow hashtags to see what they want. You know, we didn't get the list really.
I didn't have time to talk about lists, but you can separate things with lists. And one of my secrets is that I have some public lists, like the California Librarians one. I have a private must-see list. So if I don't have time to do it, I'll check anyone else out that day. I check that, and then I see the people who I really don't want to miss any tweets from. That's not answering your question, but that's another tip.
If you share that with a student, as long as you're keeping it all, you know, the student can choose a hashtag just to follow what you're telling them.
Well, you could set up a kid can't set up a hashtag to follow you, but you could set up a class hashtag. You would tell the kids, go to Mrs. Jones, hashtag Jones class, but try and make it shorter than that. And then they would be able to see everything for that class.
Well, thank you, Jane, everyone. Thank you, Jane.
Thank you for coming. And as I said, I know that was really a rush, but get in touch with me with any questions. And also, I do encourage you to go to learntotweet.edublogs.org that has a lot more depth on the things that I've been talking about today.
And if I gave you an evaluation, if I could